The UN has called for a halt to the fighting in Myanmar to allow the distribution of much-needed aid after last week's devastating earthquake. More than 3,300 people have been confirmed dead so far, with hundreds still missing. Myanmar's military and several key armed resistance groups have all declared ceasefires in the wake of the quake, but reports are indicating that the junta has continued its attacks.
A city in ruins and people with nowhere to go. Sagaing was one of the cities worst affected by the earthquake.
There is no water in Sagaing. The hospitals are absolutely overwhelmed. People are outside in 40-degree heat because the building itself is unsafe. There's a lack of medicines, lack of health workers. And the markets are completely closed down. So the needs are nothing short of absolutely immense.
In Myanmar's second largest city, Mandalay, near the epicenter of the earthquake, thousands are sheltering in tents. And the lack of clean water is a danger to health.
We're concerned that diseases like cholera could break out in the community. The big issue is to manage trash properly, as people are staying on the street and throwing away a lot of waste. That's the concern for people in the city.
As well as the damage to vital infrastructure, the United Nations says Myanmar's military is still attacking rebel forces fighting the 4-year civil war, hampering the disaster relief operation.
Our office has received reports that the military has carried out at least 53 attacks, including strikes by aircrafts and drones, artillery and paramotors in areas affected by the earthquake. At least 14 attacks by the military have been reported since they announced a temporary ceasefire, which was due to take effect on the 2nd of April.
The US has been criticized for failing to join the relief operation, but the administration now says it will provide another $7 million in aid.
Sara Netzer joined me earlier from UNOPS, the UN agency dedicated to humanitarian and development projects. She told me more about the situation in the capital.
As I think you saw in the clips, total devastation, buckled roads, destroyed bridges, people living in tents outside of what used to be their homes. They don't have access to running water. They don't have access to toilets, a way to store food, a way to prepare food. It's quite epic devastation.
Can you tell us about the situation in other hard-hit areas, such as Mandalay, for example?
Yes, we have teams on the ground in Mandalay. The destruction in Mandalay is also tremendous. As you saw, the road has split open, water pipes are broken. Our team was able to speak with some there, and tragic, one family only survived because they were visiting the mother in the hospital who had just given birth. They came back and their house was completely destroyed. Another family that lost 7 members. A young man in that family had gone back into the home to try to retrieve some important documents. The home collapsed. They were only able to find him because his hand was sticking out of the rubble. And for 3 hours with their bare hands, the family worked to pull him out of the rubble. But unfortunately, as I said, 7, including a young girl, died in that family.
Walk us through the most pressing needs in some of those areas. Are people essentially getting the help that they need?
That's our priority, and our partners on the ground have continued to reach. We've reached around 170,000 people in this first week since the earthquake. We'll continue to do that. We work primarily through local partners, so our partners are on the ground in those communities, able to quickly prioritize and respond immediately. We were responding within hours after the earthquake. But as you see, the needs are enormous and will continue to be so as we move into a recovery period as well.
As we just reported before your appearance, Myanmar's military junta has declared a temporary truce, but since launched attacks. How's that impacting disaster relief?
What I can say is that we call on all parties to respect the truce. We need our partners and our teams to have safe and unimpeded access to all areas that have been affected in Myanmar. And our partners will continue to work, but again, we would ask that all respect the ceasefire.
Sara, what has your agency accomplished so far, and what is your next goal?
So in this past week, we've distributed much needed assistance to 170,000 in the most affected areas. We'll continue doing that in the days and weeks to come, but we'll also start working with communities to determine how best to start rebuilding so that they can get back to school, get back to their livelihoods in some sense of normalcy. It will take time. But time particularly is of the essence in Myanmar. It's the hot season. It's above 40 degrees. It's very hot. It's very humid. But the monsoon season is fast approaching, and we need to quickly get shelter up for these families.
Can you tell us about the challenges your team tackled in Myanmar before the earthquake hit and how you see them developing now?
Sure. So Myanmar has been in a brutal civil war since the military takeover. And we've seen that throughout the country, but our partners have been able to continue working in development and in humanitarian. So we're able to work in development and humanitarian assistance in communities. And we're driven by what those communities tell us that they need in order to improve their lives, improve their livelihoods, increase access to health care and all of those essential services. So those challenges were there before the earthquake. They'll continue after the earthquake, but really we're guided by what the communities on the ground tell us are their most pressing needs, and then we work with them to be able to respond to those.
Sara Netzer, Myanmar Country Director for UNOPS, we really appreciate your time.
Thank you.